today we're going to be talking about goal setting and how we can use some aspects of Chinese medicine and just some tips that I've picked up over the years through studying psychology and thinking about those psychological things from a Chinese medicine, particularly a 5-element perspective, to help you to set goals and to get to where you want to go to in the future. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. It's Marie Hopkinson here. I'm a herbalist and an acupuncturist. If you struggle with things like SMART goals and you don't know how to do those things, then this is the video for you. We're not going to talk about how to do a SMART goal. We're going to talk about how you get to the idea of getting to a goal and how do we challenge in ourselves or address some of those blockages where you're like, I feel like my heart's broken, I can't even think about the future, or you've struggled to think about the future. You might have experienced a loss. I'll give you some acupressure points you can use to help yourself to get to this point and to actually work out, okay, why can't I see a future, or why am I struggling with that? And it might not be something that you've always struggled with. Maybe this year you're struggling with it. So hopefully this video will help you with those things. So let's dive into this. Hopefully at the end of this, you'll be more empowered to set your goals and to decide what you want for yourself and to know that that's really your goals. Okay, so if you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe thing, bing, 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 subscribe and ding that notification bell and all your dreams will come true. So what are goals and why should we set them? It's a good idea to have an idea of something to look forward to, something where we feel like we can move forward into it. And I think that's a good idea from a Chinese medicine perspective because it helps promote movement. And if we don't have movement, we have stagnancy, we get blocked, we get stuck. So nothing is ever going to just stay the same just because you don't move around. It's not just going to stay the same. It's going to start to go backwards. It's going to start to get blocked and stuck. And what keeps us healthy and stops disease in many instances in Chinese medicine is a flow. And what you're doing when you go to have an acupuncture session is they're essentially getting things moving. That's all that we do, is we're getting things moving in a certain direction and we're working with what your body's already got to kind of get things moving. And that's what you're doing with exercise. That's what you're doing with things like yoga and stretching. So movement is a big part of life physically, and it should also be a part of life mentally. Now, different people resonate with different ways of setting goals or different ideas. You know, some people like to set big giant goals and achieve a little bit of it, and they're happy with that. Some people they're more ambitious than others. Others are like, I'll just, don't pressure me. I don't want to be pressured. I just want to move forward at my own pace. So if you'd like to do something different, this video might be for you if you feel like I'd like to, but I'm not sure how to, and you've struggled with that. Now, if you are into the personality types of Chinese medicine, there's certain types that are better at setting goals than others. Wood types are generally probably pretty good at setting goals because they tend to be a bit more ambitious and a bit adventurous, and even metal types metal types and water types are probably better at setting goals than the other types. Or I'm not saying the others don't set goals, but probably just better at it. So if you might not be watching this if you're a wood type. I'm a wood type of person, so I can kind of find this very easy to talk about and kind of identify in other people very easily that's kind of something that's lacking sometimes, just that lack of movement in their life. And sort of that's something to think about when you first start thinking about goal setting. So the idea of being able to see yourself further on in the track, like see yourself, what do you see for your future, seeing a future for yourself, projecting like, what do I want 5 years from now, 10 years from now, knowing that life planning is a wood element aspect. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be that personality type to be able to do that. Everyone has all of the elemental types in our body, but that particular thing is related to certain things in our body. It's related to movement. So if you're struggling to know what you want for yourself, you may have liver qi stagnation or qi stagnation, wood element stagnation in some way, shape or form. So if you find yourself like feeling very tight around the bottom of your ribs, or annoyed there, or tight there, pain there, you're sighing a lot, you find yourself getting frustrated and angry more easily, or you're less flexible than you'd like to be. You might find yourself being snappy. You could have extreme PMS, premenstrual symptoms, premenstrual tension, whatever you want to call it. The various disorders that go along with that. Those things, I'm not saying you've got a disorder if you can't plan your life, but these things are associated with it. And the other thing that's associated with it is very important to think about is the season of springtime. So in Australia, we have spring just before summer. Obviously, everyone has that. But we have that at this time of the year. So I'm sitting here right now in the new year. It's like a few days into the new year. And it's summer. So we've just had spring. So we've got a momentum naturally. I don't know what it's like to live in a country where it's cold and you're in winter. And that's like you don't have that momentum of life. So when should you really be doing your new things? You should be doing them in spring, and you kind of want to think about that. Obviously, all through the year you're thinking about that, but the time to launch out and do that new thing is actually in springtime, because you're going with the momentum of the season, and it's going to be heaps easier than starting something, especially starting something in the middle of winter. Or at the start of winter, even as you're coming into winter. So that's just something to think about. In the background of life, you've got this momentum. You've got this momentum going from the movement. It's the movement of yin and yang. So winter is a yin time, summer is a yang time. And so if you want more activity, something different, especially something like, you're like, I don't want my life to be the same. I want to be completely different. The springtime is the best season to kind of start doing that. Now, you might think, okay, start of 2023, Marie, I don't want to wait, till spring, which might be for you. Well, it wouldn't be that. It will be if you're in Australia. It'll be, a long time to wait. It is better for you to think about that now in winter, and then as spring starts to come, which might be sort of March or something, you can start to launch into that. So your year might actually naturally start more likely then. So you don't have to set your goals at the start of the year, right? New year, new me, all this sort of stuff. You can do new you at any moment in the day, at any moment in the year. We can change, but there's reasons why things are easier at certain times because of that momentum that's happening from the changing of the environment. And it's literally they're not talking about anything woo-woo, like, some kind of spiritual stars movements or anything like that. I'm talking about just the momentum that happens from the seasons, from the weather changing, right? Because you're moving into this kind of warmness. You see what happens with nature. Things are moving out of their shell, literally. Like, that's what people say. I'm coming out of my shell. Like, you go into your shell to protect yourself in winter. Winter's a time of, consolidation, protection, staying safe and staying away from the predators. And then spring is like, I'm going to come out. You can't stay away from the predators forever. You have to come out. You have to emerge, because if you're a little animal, you would have collected all your, things to keep you in hibernation even. Think of just those things. Not all animals don't obviously do all these things, but this principle, this general idea of nature, winter's a season of storage, hibernation, not really sort of going forth and doing new stuff. So if you're on the other side of the world to me and you're feeling like, I don't really feel it, that's normal. That's okay, right? If you don't feel like it, you shouldn't feel like doing anything new right now. It's kind of, you should be thinking about it, but you might not feel like doing it. So you can really maximize that benefit of bang, okay, I'm going to go into this with that power, particularly if it's something like a new exercise program, like I want to lose weight, let's say. And I did that for myself. I chose spring particularly to do this thing that I mentioned on my channel before called 75 Hard. And I basically just did it in that spring. Now, the other thing is, if you're going to be doing something that requires you to be outdoors more, the weather is more kinder to your body in those transitional seasons, right? So in spring and in autumn. Whereas in summer, mate, it's bloody hot. In winter, it's, especially if you live in a place where it snows, it's going to be freezing cold. So that's something to remember, right? So don't be too hard on yourself if the seasons aren't aligning, if you're not feeling it exactly right. January 1, you're not feeling exactly like being a new person and doing something different. So now let's think about how we can start to plan These are my personal tips for you if you're feeling this a struggle. I'm going to go through some various struggles that I know people face and how you can overcome those with some acupressure points and some sort of self-help kind of tools that I've developed. So first thing I would do is to try to create a space, literally a space in your house. Go to a park. Especially if you're feeling stuck and you don't know how to set your goals, or you don't know what to think about, how to do this thinking, go somewhere new, go to somewhere different. Even if you can't leave your house for some reason, go to a different place that you don't hang out in. Don't be in a place where there's a lot of clutter. That is not going to facilitate the free thinking that you kind of need to change. So if you're in a very messy environment, like I'm a person that can tolerate a lot of mess, because I don't care about it so much. But then there comes a point in the time where I'm like, I got to clean up. And I also notice that when I is a cleaner space, I feel better in that cleaner space. Like I don't like doing the cleaning up, and I find that difficult, and I've had to work on that to mean that I don't become a clutterer person. But it's definitely good for me. And I have spaces that I have, like my office is just completely clear, like the office where I see my patients in. So sometimes I go in there and I can just sit in there, big nice white walls, and just think at that desk, and there's nothing else there to distract me. Sometimes I've done this at cafes. So you just take what you need. Do not take your phone and your iPad and all these things that are going to distract you if you can't help yourself. Oh, I'll just quickly look on Facebook. What is Johnny saying? That is not helpful to this process. So get an exercise book or a notebook or something you can write down, even just some blank sheets of paper. I love big giant sheets of paper. I also use a lot of whiteboards. So you can have a big giant whiteboard. And so there's different ways of doing this, right? Now, so you want to get into a space where you can get in the zone and just allow your mind to be free. So whatever works for you, it might be being outside in the park. If nature inspires you and you know that helps you, go for a hike, go for a camping weekend or something like that, where you just go, okay, I'm going to go camping and I'm not going to be distracted by something. So you're forcing yourself to have this time. People that I know that are high-level business people do this, and they do like a little retreat weekend away, and they just sort of go away so that they're not distracted by even their own kids and just life, right? So you just I'm just going to be focusing on this one thing for this time. If some of those things that I've said are really difficult for you, then just go to a new place in your home or lie down, right? Find a place to lie down. Close your eyes and then ask yourself some of these questions. Now, this may take a few days, not of lying down in that one space for a few days, but it may take you a few days to come up with the answers for yourself. But ask yourself some big questions like, where would you like to be this time next year? And you have to allow your brain or your mind to answer, or yourself to answer, without the constraints of, oh, well, I know that what I want isn't possible, or that will be too hard, or that might cost me a lot of time, energy, money, whatever it is, or that's not appropriate, but that's not possible for me. I'm not one of those special people or whatever. So try your best to remove those constraints. Now, I'm not saying I'd like to be able to fly and, because we can't fly. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can't fly. Those kinds of things, right? But I mean, like, if you've had a business and the business hasn't been doing well all those years and you're like, I'd like my business to be profitable, that's not an unreasonable goal just because it hasn't been profitable all those times. But because it hasn't, it's going to be, your realistic side of your brain's going to go, oh, but, these reasons come into your mind. So if that's happening, just try to push that aside or just let that go. You can use mindfulness to kind of, the practice of mindfulness is like allowing that thought to happen and not being attached to it, just letting it go. Okay. So ask yourself this: if there were no constraints, like there was financial constraints, health constraints, time constraints, your partner involved or whatever is, these constraints that you have. If you didn't have those, what would you like to be at this time next year? Where would you like to be? Maybe even in 5 years or 10 years or whatever however you feel that you can look forward into the future too. If you're struggling with that idea, and it's even a struggle to kind of think like that, you might give it a try first, right? Don't just say, oh, that's a struggle, I'm not going to do that. Another idea that can work for you is to get a whole bunch of magazines. Now, I like to do this with magazines because it's harder. It's possible with something like Google to do it on a Google search, but you can't really sort of browse through. So what I do is I've even gone to secondhand shops and picked up a massive stack of magazines, right? And what you do is you flip through the magazines and you look for any picture that you like. It might be something like, oh, I'd like my home to look like that. Oh, I really like that colour. I really like the way those kids are smiling. I like that. You know, oh, I want to have kids. That reminds me of kids, right? Or there's a baby there. I want to have a baby. So whatever those things are. It might be like I've done it before when I've been single, thinking I'd like to find a partner. What would my partner look like? You know, just these things like, what am I looking for in a person? And cut out those pictures. Don't put too much value on them or think they have to mean anything. Just if it sparks your interest, you just cut it out and you put it all in a big box, plastic bag, whatever. And then you take the time to spread them all out onto a big piece of paper, get a big giant piece of butcher's paper or whatever you can get, and you just glue them all down in some kind of assortment. That's called a vision board, right? So I've done this at multi-level marketing things where people, I don't do multi-level marketing, but my parents used to drag me along to like their Amway meetings and whatnot when I was a kid. And they'd have these whole weekends and people would be, oh, I'm going to be retire young, retire rich, and get a Ferrari and all this stuff. They'd make people cut all this stuff out and do these vision boards. But it's actually very powerful when it's powerful anyway, but it's also very powerful when you're not sure how to articulate something with words, but a picture might just, oh, that strikes me. And you don't have to necessarily know what that means. Like I sometimes cut a picture out because I like the colour and it's like a bench top. And I'm like, I like that colour. There's something about that's resonating something to me, or the look of that, or that reminds me of clean and tidy. And I want my life to be clean and tidy this year, or something like that. Whatever works for you. It might be fashionable, and you're like, oh, I want to be a bit more fashionable this year, or I want to study. So you might find a picture of someone studying or books. And then you can also get, more fancy and go on Google Images but I'd encourage you to print this stuff out so then you can see it and you can look at that and you can ask yourself, what is it about that that's appealing to me? Why am I interested in that? And I've also done this before when I've had a shop. One of my friends who helped me start my shop, he gave me this idea and he said, well, what you need to do is make a vision board about your, I don't even know if he called it a vision board, but he was like, a storyboard, that's what he called it, for the stuff you've got to buy for the store, right? Like what kind of, what clothing, so it all has a theme. And because I was going to China to buy stuff and, otherwise you're at the mercy of whatever you see in the markets there. So it kind of gives you a guide. Does this fit with this theme? Does this fit with this idea? Does this fit with who, like I'm talking about for you, who I am, who I'm trying to become? Successful, right? That means lots of things to different people, right? So it might be family, and so there might be just, or buying a home might be a massive goal that you've always wanted to achieve. So it doesn't have to necessarily be for this year, but it might be for something for your future. So these are just ideas. If you're struggling to see a future for yourself or see yourself with a better future, these are things you can try. So you could try that lying down in a different place, go to a new place, think about that, ask yourself those big questions. One of the big questions I'd ask yourself, just by itself or in addition to doing the vision board thing, is what do you love to do that you would easily do for no money? What is something that you would think, I could just do this, and you might get paid to do it, right? But you'd think, I would still, if there was no money in this, there was no way for me to make money from it, I still would want to do it. And that is a great thing to be churning your life towards somehow. So it might mean that, so let's say it's like looking after your kids and you're like, I just love being a mom and I love looking after my kids and I'd want to have more kids, or, I want to homeschool them, or whatever you want to do. I just want to spend more time with them. But you still need to go to work and make money. You still need to provide for them. Otherwise you'd be not a good parent for them. And, it's very hard to survive with a single income, as a single income family, even if there's two people there and one's earning the income. Often the other person can't stay at home because it's hard to survive on that income. So that might then drive you, that goal of wanting to be the best parent that you can be, or dad you can be. I'm just saying mum because I'm a female. That might then drive you towards your career decisions for that year. So it might drive you towards a career that allows you the flexibility to be home with your kids when you want to be home with your kids, or to be able to have some time to work from home, or whatever it is, or run your business like that. Whereas if your aspirations are to enjoy what you do in your job, and you're like, I hate what I do right now. I have lots of patients that have told me that, just like they're working a corporate job or something and they just really dislike it. And they've changed and run their own business, and they're like, oh, I'm earning heaps less money in my own business, but I actually enjoy that more. And they wouldn't give it up because they wouldn't go back to the corporate world earning all that extra money. They were like, that extra money actually wasn't bringing me any happiness. So there's different goals for different strokes for different folks, right? Different goals for different people. I'm not here to judge you on your goals. Like, if you want to earn $1 million, or $1 million isn't that much these days, but if you want to earn $1 million a month, and that's going to be your goal, and you want to, be, massively successful financially, and that's all you care about, great. If that's what you want to do, then do that, right? So set the goals that are, working for you. All right. So if you struggle to set goals, you're still struggling after these things, there's some things you can do. So one is you could wait for springtime to come closer to you. That will help. The other thing is you can do exercise and do things in your life that create physical movement. It's going to help you get towards a better flow, because your wood element likes movement, doesn't like stagnation. So here are some things you can do to stop stagnation. One is to go for a walk, 45-minute walk I'd recommend the time, even half an hour. Do some stretching yoga. So there's lots of yoga videos you can do that are yin yoga, easy to do. If you're overweight and you find doing yoga hard and you don't exercise much, go for a walk or do that yin yoga. That stretching is actually part of your sinews, which is your tendons, and that's related to the wood element and to the liver and the gallbladder. Particularly stretching the sides of your body, okay? You can do the little exercise where you put your hands on your hips and you say, I'm a little teapot. Where your thumb hits is a gallbladder, at the end of that rib, is a gallbladder point. And you can just rub around that area. So I'm just going to stand up here so you can see. You can just kind of rub around there, tapping there, all that stuff around the side. But that particular point's going to be kind of here, where it's just at the end of that rib. So the end of the free rib, the 12th rib. So you can do those movement things, right? Another food that's good is citrus, the citrus flavour, so citrus smells. That's another thing I should probably mention, is just like getting access to a different environment in terms of what you can smell, like scents, can actually help you, not sort of smelling horrible putrid things, but certain smells are more uplifting than others. So mandarin, tangerine, orange, these citrus scents are really good for moving chi, so moving that wood chi, so helping that movement. Okay, so these are the things we could do. We can exercise, you can do breathing exercises, you could do some Wim Hof breathing, you can look that up, do the gallbladder channel rubbing, and so these are some of the things you can do, right? Eating pungent foods, eating citrus foods. So not too much citrus because it's sour and it kind of contains things, but the aromaticness of the citrus, I should say, is probably what helps you. So like aged tangerine peel is a herb in Chinese medicine, chen pi. You can make a similar one yourself with orange peels that you just dry and you make a tea out of it. And that kind of aids the movement of chi, like it helps move energy, but it also stops dampness. And that's like chen pi tea, right? Flower teas, so hua in Chinese medicine, hua in Chinese is the word for flower. So a lot of these herbs like ju hua, which is chrysanthemum flowers, or rose, maguey hua, stuff like that. Those things can be useful to move and aromatically open. All right, now, if you're still struggling with some of these things, there can be other reasons for it. Psychological things that are going on for you. You might need it might be helpful for you to talk to a professional person. But acupuncture also has this esoteric kind of side to it, and some practitioners are more into this than others. So if you are going to like seek out a practitioner for this reason, I would have a chat to them first to make sure this is something that they do, because not all practitioners will be into it or be able to do it, be trained in it. And some are more trained in different sides of it than others. But there's definitely, acupuncture can be very beneficial in moving stagnant liver qi. So if you're sort of stuck and you're like, okay, I've tried the exercise, I've tried the thing, but I'm still sighing, I'm still frustrated, I'm still angry. Well, acupuncture is one of the things that is so helpful to move qi. And that's why people generally feel great afterwards. They just feel like this weight is off their shoulders. They feel like a burden's been lifted. Very helpful like that. So you could try just booking in for an acupuncture session. There's certain points that are better than others for just different things, like acupressure points. So I'm going to give you a couple of these ones if this is something that's hindering you from doing your goals. There's a certain point on your foot called bladder 62. I'm going to put up a little picture here. And that is for when you feel like the world is weighing you down. It's just got a special little function like that. It's one of the Sun Sa Miao ghost points. And what it's used for is sort of like feeling like carrying the weight of the world. Like I'm just burdened by stuff. And it's hard to see beyond that sometimes, right? Of course, if you feel like that, you feel like, oh, I'm just carrying such a heaviness to my life. Like there's such a difficulty. And it might be because someone's passed away. You might have taken on a different responsibility in your family or in your, like that can happen a lot. When someone passes away, another person then is sort of transferred the weight of something. You might be running an organisation and you feel like the weight of it is just so hard, it's so heavy, it's so, or maybe just worrying about what's going on in the world in general. And there might not be stuff that you actually have responsibility over, but you feel this weight of it, you feel heavy from it. Well, that point is a good point. So what would you do with that? You just press it. So it's on your ankle. And you just kind of press the point. I can't get my foot up. My foot up here. But I'll try and put a picture up there on the screen for you. So bladder 62 is one you can use. Another point is for clearing a foggy mind is stomach 40. So this is called Fung Lung stomach 40. And this point's a little bit harder to find than just a stock standard sort of way. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of try to show you this point. So you have the bottom of your patella or the crease of your popliteal crease. So try not to use too many crazy words, but your knee crease, and then your ankle bone here. So it's halfway between there. Now it's hard to divide that. You can see where the seam of my pants are. That's really my gallbladder channel. Kind of want to find the bone, which is the tibia bone here, and just kind of come off that, and you'll feel a little depression, and then another one out here. So the one we want is kind of halfway between sort of the stomach and the side of your leg. Now, all acupressure points are areas, so you could just kind of press, and you can tap, and you can kind of go around that area just in a bigger space. So you can see me sort of going around. I like this little bird pecking method. Another thing you can try is also using those massage guns. You know how they sort of press into the point. So I was doing that the other day. My brother has one, and both my brothers have one. And yeah, they're great because you can like press into your neck and stuff, but you can also press on the acupressure points with those massage guns. So that's something you could try. So we've got stomach 40. Now, what does stomach 40 do? It kind of helps clear phlegm and that heaviness of cloudy thinking. So if you feel just foggy-headed, you're like, I can't think clearly, Marie. I just feel cloudy in my head. And in Chinese medicine, we have this concept like phlegm misting the mind. And when that happens, some people can get mentally ill from that. Like, just different mental illnesses can make people have poor perception of the world. And before you get to be mentally ill, you're probably not watching this video if that's the case, but you can have a sort of a cloudiness of your thinking, where it's just not clear, right? So that's what that point does. It kind of helps that helps promote that clarity. So if you have dampness, then that's a symptom that often is associated with dampness, right? Which is this cloudy headedness. And without getting into too much detail, dampness and phlegm are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. But for the purpose of this treatment, they can be thought of as similar. So that brings me to my next thing. If that is the problem for you, you're feeling cloudy headed and like foggy headed, I would consider doing some fasting or a very light kind of diet around this time. So you're going to be benefited, like your stomach area, your stomach and your intestines, your digestive system's going to be benefited by less food and less being bogged down less by the weight of the food, the job of doing digestion. So around that time, now I'm not suggesting you do fasting without the check with your doctor what's okay for you. So I'm not giving you advice to go and do long periods of fasting, but more do that under the advice of your own healthcare practitioner. But also consider eating less food, less volume of food. Certainly if you have a health condition like you have diabetes or you have any like low blood sugar issues or things like that, please follow the advice that you have. Don't change that and do something that might cause you to pass out, or if you need to eat regularly, then do that. But you could try things like lighter meals, soup, and do that. Or a ketogenic diet is actually very conducive to more clearer thinking than a non-ketogenic diet. So you can kind of look up that, and that's why many people stick to they have a ketogenic diet in the morning and lunchtime, and then in the evening they have carbohydrates so they can feel fuller and fall asleep easier. But just for clarity of thinking, this is why intermittent fasting is kind of popular for people that want to be very productive first thing in the morning with their thinking. The last ones I want to give you for helping you with your goal setting is if you feel anxious and distressed and worrisome, worrying a lot, anxiety, that kind of stuff, panic, fearful about the future, that kind of stuff, and not in a great place like that. The points you could use would be on your hands here. So there's a point here. So let's just say in general, like if that's you just feel anxious and worrisome and fearful and that kind of stuff, then I would go for just these points across the wrist. So you can just kind of rub across there, and those points can just be used to calm your mind. They all have a calming the mind effect. If you've had a heartbreak and you feel like your heart's been broken, like a loss of someone, even you've lost a business, or you've lost sometimes even just something you were hoping for that didn't happen, or someone's literally broken your heart, like a person has broken up with you, and you've lost you've lost someone, a pet could die, like these kinds of things, or you've lost that, and you're going through a heartbreak, then this pericardium 7 is the point for that. So you kind of press that in here. That's right in the center of the crease of the wrist, and that's what that point's great for. So you just kind of press that. And what you would do is you just kind of rub that. This is one of those ghost points as well. It's just a certain category of points that treat these specific mental, emotional, or life stage type of things. Is you'd lie down and you just press that point. So I'm just pressing it here with my thumb underneath my wrist, so you can just kind of press it and massage it. And just lie down and be pressing that, and just allow those emotions to kind of come up that might kind of come up while you're pressing it. So you're sort of pressing it, and you just, maybe do some deep breathing. There's things called yoga nidra, which is a type of slow breathing, mindfulness, these kinds of things, where you're not asleep but you're not moving around much, and you could combine it with that if you wanted to. And you're basically just going to lie down and press that point, and just allow those emotions to kind of come up and let those things go, let those things be dealt with. And then finally, there's a point on the back of the head here, right? which is do 16. So that's a bit of a harder one to find. If you kind of take your head and you go all the way back under your skull, right in the center. Okay, so you've got to be right in the middle, and there's a little bulgy part there, and just under that bulge there's a little soft area. You don't need to press in there too hard, but you just kind of press there. That is do 16, feng fu, and that is for when you feel resistant to change. Like you really, I don't like change. You're feeling like the world is changing around you and you're resisting that. You feel like, it doesn't help the changes not be there, but it helps you be more flexible. So if you're feeling like change is difficult, maybe you want to change, or you want things to be better in your life, but you struggle with change. You struggle and you feel like it's not change is usually not an easy thing for most people. But that's got to do with like your ability to adapt and be okay with change has to do with your wood flexibility, the water that nourishes the wood. So if you don't have much water there, then you can get very dry and brittle and snappy and, easy angry. So that point can help with that. It's just one of those another special point. So you can actually press that by sort of pressing into that and just leaning back onto your bed and just kind of pressing on that. Like I'm just using my thumb or my index finger to kind of just press on that point. So hopefully those things are helpful in some way to you with the new year coming and setting goals and thinking about what you want for the new year. And the most important thing to remember is it's got to be what you want. And then they're your goals and you'll be more inclined to do them. We can have another video about how to do the things once you've decided what you want to do. But this is helping you to work out what you want to do. So after you've done some of these practices or all of these practices, then you can go back to the original one where you can sit down with a blank piece of paper and start to just write down what you want for yourself in the future. So let's just leave it at that. It can be no pressure to say in the next year or 10 years, but in the future, what do I want for myself? And then you can start to create from those statements, or you can even state it as if it's happened. So I will be the healthiest I've ever been in 2023. You can start to then give it some time, like say, this year I'm going to do this, or I want to do this in this period of time. You can start to use a process called SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, time-bound, realistic, SMAR, realistic and time-bound. So that's the acronym for SMART goals, and that's a great way of setting actual goals you can do. So for instance, if I said, I want to lose weight in 2023, or I just want to lose weight, it's not really a SMART goal. It's more just like an ambition. It's like, yeah, that's a good thing. It's an altruistic thing to do. But if I said, I'm going to lose 20 kilos in 2023, is that a SMART goal? If I said I want to lose 50 kilos in 2023, it's not really a SMART goal because it's not realistic. It's, for one, it was more than I actually would need to be, right? But it's also, even if I did need to lose 50 kilos or 50 pounds or whatever, if that's not even possible, then that's silly to make that as part of your SMART goal, right? So what's realistic is going to be very variable, right? For one person, they might say, I would rather put 5 kilos because that's realistic. Whereas it might be possible for you, actually it is realistic. If I really worked at it, I could probably lose 20 kilos, right? So it depends on how you feel about that and also what is physically possible. So don't try to bend the rules of physics with your goals. So keep it within those parameters. But SMART goals, so specific, measurable. Measurable means I'll know, like a kilo is something I can measure, right? If I just said I want to lose weight is, I can measure weight, but we haven't set an amount, so we don't know if we've achieved it or not. So at the end of that SMART goal, there's got to be a sentence there where at a certain time I'll know if I've achieved it or not. But all of these things are kind of to get you towards that, because I know that's for some people. For me, I was to be able to sit there and I'd be able to bang out SMART goals till the cows come home, no problem. This video is more for people that struggle with the concept of getting even to the SMART goals. If you struggle with that, then that's why I've made this video for you, so you can kind of think about these processes before you get to that. So I hope it's been useful and helpful. Click the subscribe button, and I'll see you again on another video soon.